Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai World News. We're kicking things off today with some major turbulence in global financial markets. In the epicenter, Asia. Both the Financial Times and BBC News are reporting that Asian tech stocks took a serious beating to start the week, with South Korea's market index suffering one of its steepest single-day drops in recent memory. This follows a brutal Friday session on Wall Street, where the Nasdaq posted significant losses that rattled investor confidence across the board. Seoul's Kospi Index and Japan's markets both slid sharply, wiping out a good chunk of the gains built up during the recent AI-driven tech rally. Now, what's driving this? A couple of things. First, that strong U.S. jobs report released last week has traders worried that the Federal Reserve may keep interest rates higher for longer. Bad news for high-growth tech valuations. The Financial Times also notes this represents a direct collision between the so-called AI trade and the reality of elevated borrowing costs. Second, renewed tensions in the Middle East, which we'll get to in just a moment, are adding extra jitters to an already nervous market. South Korea is particularly exposed here because, as the FT has previously highlighted, the country has been riding high on AI-related demand for chips and electronics. When the tide turns on tech sentiment globally, South Korea feels it fast. Investors are now watching closely to see whether this is a short-term correction or the beginning of a broader pullback from the record highs we've seen in recent weeks. Moving now to the Middle East, where the situation has taken a dangerous turn. According to the Financial Times, Israel and Iran have exchanged retaliatory airstrikes, putting serious strain on a ceasefire that has been in place for roughly 2 months. The barges are testing not only the truce itself, but also President Donald Trump's broader diplomatic efforts to forge a wider regional deal. The FT also reports that oil prices jumped sharply in response to the escalation, as traders grew increasingly worried that these new strikes could spiral back into full-scale conflict between the two nations. Crude prices surged as markets priced in the risk of disruption to Middle Eastern energy supplies, a reminder of just how sensitive global oil markets remain to geopolitical flashpoints in the region. The fragility of this ceasefire has been on display for some time, but these latest exchanges represent one of the most significant tests yet. International observers are urging both sides to pull back from the brink, but so far, the situation remains volatile. We'll be keeping a very close eye on developments here as they continue to unfold. Now to a story that's sending major diplomatic signals across East Asia. The Financial Times is reporting that Chinese President Xi Jinping has touched down in Pyongyang for a face-to-face meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un. This is Xi's first trip to North Korea in 7 years, and the timing is anything but coincidental. According to the FT, the visit comes as Kim Jong Un has been ramping up rhetoric around nuclear expansion, making this one of the most consequential diplomatic meetings in the region in recent years. For Beijing, this visit is a careful balancing act. China remains North Korea's most important economic lifeline and political ally, but it also has an interest in managing Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions and maintaining stability on its doorstep. The meeting is expected to cover the North Korean nuclear program and broader regional security dynamics, at a time when tensions between the U.S., China, and their respective allies are already running high. For the international community, all eyes will be on what kind of signals emerge from these closed-door talks, and whether Beijing is willing to exert any meaningful influence over Pyongyang's nuclear posture. Switching gears to the world of business, and a major deal in the food ingredients industry. The Financial Times is reporting that British food and ingredients group Tate Lyle has agreed to be taken over by its American rival Ingredion, in a deal valued at approximately £2.7 billion. The acquisition marks a significant moment for one of the UK's most recognizable industrial heritage brands. According to the FT, the deal comes at a challenging time for Tate Lyle, which has been grappling with subdued consumer spending that has weighed on demand for its products. Ingredion, a major US-based ingredients company, clearly sees strategic value in absorbing the British group, likely gaining access to its product portfolio, customer base, and international operations. This kind of cross-border consolidation is becoming increasingly common in the food ingredients sector, as companies look to scale up and achieve cost efficiencies in a tough macroeconomic environment. Whether UK regulators wave this through smoothly remains to be seen, But for now, the two companies appear to be moving forward with the transaction. Alright, let's take a brief detour from geopolitics, because this next story is genuinely jaw-dropping. BBC News is reporting that a volunteer diver has captured rare footage of an endangered great white shark in the Mediterranean Sea, in waters between Tunisia and Sicily. The diver described shaking with adrenaline as he filmed the encounter, and honestly, who could blame him? Great white sharks are critically rare in the Mediterranean, making this sighting an extraordinary event for marine biologists and conservationists alike. The species faces significant threats from overfishing, habitat disruption, and declining prey populations across the region. Experts say footage like this is invaluable for tracking the presence and health of the remaining great white population in these waters. It's a stunning reminder that beneath the surface of one of the world's most trafficked and tourist-filled seas, rare and magnificent wildlife still exists and urgently needs our protection. A remarkable moment caught on camera, and a story that's already going viral online. Now to South America, where Peru is waking up to a deeply uncertain political situation. The Financial Times reports that the country's presidential runoff election has produced results so tight that it's essentially impossible to call a winner at this stage. The race pits the daughter of a right-wing autocrat against a leftist lawmaker, a clash that reflects Peru's deeply divided political landscape. According to the FT, neither candidate has been able to pull ahead convincingly, leaving the country in a state of political suspense that could drag on as votes are fully counted and verified. Peru has experienced significant political instability over recent years, cycling through multiple presidents and constitutional crises, so the outcome of this election carries enormous weight for the country's democratic institutions and economic direction. International observers are watching closely, particularly given concerns about democratic backsliding in parts of Latin America. Whatever the result, it's clear that Peruvian society is deeply split, and the path to stable governance for whoever wins will not be easy. And finally, let's close with a look at the ongoing diplomatic efforts around the war in Ukraine. The Financial Times is reporting that European capitals are continuing to push for peace negotiations, but Russian President Vladimir Putin is showing no signs of softening his position. Despite sustained pressure from major European governments, the Kremlin appears unmoved, leaving diplomats searching for any viable path toward meaningful talks. The FT also notes that Kosovo's ruling party secured a second snap election victory in just 6 months, adding another layer of political complexity to an already turbulent European landscape. The gap between Western diplomatic hopes and Russia's actual posture remains as wide as ever. With the conflict now well into its 4th year, the question of how and when any serious negotiations might begin remains deeply uncertain. European leaders face the difficult challenge of sustaining support for Ukraine while simultaneously leaving a door open for diplomacy, a balancing act that shows no signs of becoming any easier. That's going to do it for today's edition of Genai World News. It has been a packed Monday, from market meltdowns and missile strikes to shark sightings and election cliffhangers. If you found today's coverage valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps us bring you more of this every single day. Stay informed, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.